Parents' eyes in here. Five, four, three, two, one. Music.
Good evening, my viewers. This is George Ondek with the latest edition of the George Ondek Show. I've done about 600 shows in the last 15 years, but tonight I'm doing something new. I'm doing a news show, commentary on news items. First of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran. I've also been an advocate in Peekskill, New York, my hometown, for lower taxes for over 20 years, and head up an organization, People for 0% Tax Increases. I am also an animal rights advocate. A couple of years ago, when the mayor and council of Peekskill were entertaining the thought of killing or fining people for feeding Canadian geese, I came out in favor of the geese and for the wild birds of the Hudson. I'm a friend of our web-footed friends and our four-footed friends. And tonight I will be making comments on various news items. These are my opinions, and this is my commentary. The first thing I'd like to discuss tonight, first of all, behind me you see the American flag, and it's flying proudly. I live in Peekskill, New York. We have a city hall which has two low flag poles outside of it where the flag is flying alongside another flag. But we have a historic flagpole on top of City Hall, which the flag properly should be flown at. I'm a past commander of the DAV, and I used to read all of the rules of flying the American flag. And on a public building, it should be flown above all other flags, not alongside flags. And for over a year, I've been going to city council meetings in Peekskill, and my pleas have fallen on deaf ears with the mayor, who was just deposed, and the city council. I'm asking my viewers tonight in Peekskill and all over who feel that the flag should be flown on top of City Hall to call City Hall in Peekskill and say a brave bunch of Americans have fought for that flag and it should be flown properly. The men at Iwo Jima died putting up an American flag. I've asked time and time again, and they've come up with excuses. They said it was too expensive in one newspaper, the former mayor said, and then other people have said there's logistic problems in getting it up and it could be dangerous. Well, I just came from the town of Ossining. There's a building twice the size of City Hall in Peekskill, and there's a flag on it. There's also a flag on top of the Standard building in downtown, down by Riverfront Green in Peekskill. And it's a disgrace that the flag isn't flown properly. And alongside of it, I just passed by today, another city-owned building, a firehouse, no flag displayed. But I look across the street at Bowman Towers, there's an American flag there. I look at McDonald's, there's American flag there. Peekskill mayor and council, make the city proud. On our historic buildings, have the American flag flown and flown properly. I do not want to resort to having veterans from all over the county come to Peekskill and protest. But if that step is necessary, we'll do that. There are other items in the news I'd like to bring up tonight. Like, as I mentioned to you, I'm a friend of the wild birds and Canadian geese of the Hudson. I'm also a friend of our four-footed friends who can't speak for themselves. And a horrible thing is occurring right now as I'm speaking to you, and I wish you would call T-Town Reservation, based in Ossining, Cortland, and Yorktown, 100-acre, either 100 or 1,000-acre nature preserve, which is supposed to preserve the wild animals and the shrubs and greenery of the territory. The executive director has decided, through surveys he has taken through Cornell University and other places, that there are too many deer there and they are eating the shrubs and trees. Well, Executive Director, this has been one of the coldest and snowiest winters on record. Instead of asking the DEC to weed out the deer population by shooting them with sharpshooters over the next 4 days before the end of February, why didn't he look into ways of preserving these deers? It's the T-Town Preserve, I believe. And originally they said 75 deer were going to be shot. It's now down to 30. I ask you, viewers, if there are 30 too many deer in a preserve which is 1,000 acres, that doesn't sound like too many deer to me. And instead of paying DEC or some sharpshooters to come in and kill the deer, why didn't they look of ways of feeding the deer? It's a subject very dear to me, and I urge any sponsors, any people who contribute to the T-Town Reservation, if this is not stopped, you should ask for the removal of this executive director and cut off funding. If you're funding the T-Town Reservation and you don't believe the animals should be killed, you should stop the funding, whether you're a corporate sponsor or just an average person sponsor. How will it be if parents take their little ones to a T-Town Reservation, or I should call it preservation, and tell their little children, oh, this place is supposed to protect deer and wildlife, and they ordered 30 deer shot by sharpshooters. And how do we know they're telling us the truth? It'll be 30. It could be 75, it could be 100, it could be 200. But it should cease and desist, and too bad we can't stop it. From what I heard at the Eagle Fest yesterday, that it already began. And that is a shame and a disgrace. Other topics in the news, this is very interesting with a couple of politicians. County Legislator Ryan down in Westchester County, 16 or 17 years he was a county legislator. According to the Journal News, making $57,000 or $59,000 a year. And the county legislature grants him a waiver so he can go to work for Westchester Medical Center at a salary of $190,000 a year. The Westchester Medical Center is a contractor with the city, with the county of Westchester. A waiver shouldn't have been permitted. And in the article, it said his time there or salary there would count towards his time in his pension. I don't know if that's correct or not, but if it is, there's something drastically wrong there. But I'm just commenting on items that are in the news recently. Oh, and another thing, a Republican conservative Tea Partier from from Yorktown, Assemblyman Katz, was very strongly against marijuana. He voted against it. and most Republican conservatives do. But lo and behold, Mr. Katz last year was caught by a state trooper in upstate New York with a quantity of marijuana in his car and speeding. I think it was 85 in a 60 zone. I ask you, viewers, and you know what the outcome was? A few days of community service for Mr. Katz and a parking ticket. I ask you, viewers, if you were stopped, would the same circumstances have happened to you? Or was he given preferential treatment? That's wrong. It's very wrong. And the Republican Party in Putnam and Yorktown that he represents should seriously think about putting up a candidate to run against Mr. Katz. Because based on his actions here, he's an embarrassment to a Republican conservative party. He recently took a trip to Colorado, came back and made a statement in the paper that he is for the legalization of medical marijuana now. He's the only Republican in the state legislature who voted for it, by the way. So I think in our neighboring town of Yorktown and Putnam County that he represents, the Republican Party really needs a change there and should primary him. Article today in the news, Miami, Florida, wrong way car crashes and 5 people are dead. Taconic Parkway in Westchester County, wrong way driver kills 7 people. I think 4 of them were children. 3 adults, 2 adults on their way to a picnic in Yorktown. I think one of the solutions, or my solution to this problem, and I hope you call your state legislature and ask them to act on it. I was just driving home last weekend from Atlantic City, and all along the Garden State Parkways are LED signs, either telling you someone is missing or they're looking for a fugitive in a certain car. I'm asking you, this is the 20th century. We have wrong way drivers going on parkways and killing people. We have 19th century signs that some of them can't be read at night, that you're going the wrong way, or this is an entrance, not an exit. Why can't, I don't know what it would cost, at the entrance of every parkway, it's an LED sign saying entrance or exit, and if it's a truck entering above a certain height, a computer could read it and say, you're going in the wrong direction. This is a passenger highway, not a truck highway. These LED signs could be placed just like on the Garden State Parkway, 10, 15, 20 miles before a bridge saying your height is too high, you're on a passenger or a car highway, not a truck highway. It would save lives. I think it's a good solution. I think our state legislature should look into doing this all along our state and county highways. It's just my simple suggestion. And another suggestion, one of the problems is truck drivers are using regular GPSs to guide their trucks onto these passenger highways. I suggest the state legislature could use more money. If they hit these bridges continually, it could cost millions of dollars for the taxpayers to fix these bridges. Make a fine so substantial that truck-owning companies would stop their drivers from going onto these parkways. Make a fine of $100,000 if a truck went on a highway and damaged a bridge. That's just my suggestion. Another thing that has just come up in Peekskill, at a committee of the whole meeting, we have a town assessor, a city assessor, trying to convince the mayor and council to go forward with a revaluation plan where everybody in the town, every home would be revalued at today's prices. And an answer that the mayor and the council gave, the mayor gave before was, well, 1/3 of the people would pay more taxes, 1/3 would pay less, and 1/3 would stay even, and the city would gain nothing by it. If that's true, something else has come out in that same committee of the whole meeting. That an outside firm would do this would take 2 years at a cost of $940,000 to the taxpayers of Peekskill. I urge you, viewers, if you're in Peekskill, call the city council, call the mayor, and say, no, you do not want revaluation. One of the parties this would hurt the most is the senior citizens or anyone who's lived in Peekskill 25, 50, or 100 years, because their property values could go way up during a time of recovery, and they would be charged much more. Their taxes would not stay the same. It would be very hard on a senior citizen who owns a home in Peekskill. And one of the arguments they used to put it in, well, 5 or 6 other cities put it in, such as Rye and other rich cities. Well, they were smart enough during a time where the property values were dropping for the past 5 years to get in on something like that. But I wonder what they're going to do when, let's say, the economy really takes off this year or next year, when their taxes get raised by $5,000 or $10,000. In Peekskill, poor middle-class people can't afford to pay a substantial increase on property that has gone up in value, but they don't see that money. Maybe a whole new property tax system should be formed, but people cannot be revalued who've been living in homes 50 or 100 years and are seniors on fixed incomes. Again, that's just my opinion on that. And let's get down to veterans issues. The state legislature, Governor Cuomo and the state legislature passed at the end of the year, in the budget year, a tax break for veterans. Veterans who served their country, that they would get a break on their school taxes. They don't get it now, they get it on their municipal taxes on their STAR program. But it's up to a local school board to vote it in. They have to have one hearing that discusses it, and the next hearing the board would vote on it. I urge any viewers watching this tonight to call their school districts immediately, because if they don't beat a March the 1st deadline, the tax break will not be given till next year. But no matter what, if you support veterans, you support disabled veterans, and veterans who are on a fixed income, many of them who are in retirement earning less than $40,000 or $30,000 a year, and they're living in the richest county in America, which has the highest taxes of any county in America. But how does a person on a fixed income be able to afford greatly increased taxes? One of the arguments, they said, well, we have a dilemma. The other people would have to pick it up, the tax decrease to the veterans. Well, the veterans, many of them who are disabled for life and on a fixed income, would be maybe 10, 15% of the population, 85%. If that decrease, that benefit given to veterans was spread out to them, what could it mean? 0.5 or 1% more? I think many people would be willing to pay that for veterans who gave up their time for their country, their limbs, and many of them with disabilities for the rest of their life. They don't want veterans to lose their homes, which could happen under revaluation or continuing state, local, county, and federal taxes. Another interesting thing, the national budget, which just passed. I don't know if they kept this in here or not, but the Tea Party Republicans asked for one of the things to happen, and many party people support them. Many veterans groups support the Republican Tea Party Republicans, led by Mr. Ryan, who ran for vice president, said we should cut $6 billion out of the national budget by cutting 1% of the cost of living veterans get in their budgets. They get 1.5% increase this year, and the Tea Party Republicans in Congress, led by Mr. Ryan, wanted to cut it to 0.5%. I don't know if it happened, but if it did happen in that budget, shame on them, because instead of looking to cut on the poorest people in our society, why didn't they cut the military-industrial complex budget? Or we spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan, take $4 or $5 billion from that and cut the deficit. We give $3 billion to Iraq a year. They're not really our friends. They say they're our friends, and they give some of the money to Taliban, who were fighting. There are reports. And another one, Pakistan, is another ally of ours. I think we give $2 or $3 billion to them. Instead of looking to cut on the backs of the poor, the Social Security, and the veterans of America who worked all their life, who gave their life and limbs for their country, why don't they cut more from the rich, the top 1%, such as Mr. de Blasio is going to do in New York City. He's proposing adding an additional tax to people who earn over $500,000. And what's wrong with that? I don't see anything wrong with that. But there's many issues. In Westchester County, we're one of the highest tax counties in America. We cannot continue to tax. Many people are leaving the state. Many other people are losing their homes to foreclosure because they can't continue to keep up with the rising taxes of New York State. Let's discuss another issue, Congress and the health care issue. Did you know that in Congress, if you serve one term, it's my belief that you can get a pension for life, you can get health care benefits for you and your family for life? If I'm wrong, somebody call me and tell me after this show is over. But all the people ask under health care, which a certain party is trying to knock out, saying it's a welfare program, is give us the same welfare program, the average people, and at the same cost that the government, Congress gets. How about that, Congress? There are many issues that are important to the people. Tonight I've presented some of them to you. News articles, ways to save on taxes, ways to correct our highway system so lives are not lost. I hope some of the people who are watching the show take part tonight to what's happening, that they call their local Peekskill mayor and council and say, get the flag up, that they call New York State or their local school boards and say, do the right thing, do the patriotic thing, and help the veterans who live in your community stay in your community. It's the patriotic thing to do. And in closing, I've had a forum tonight to be able to talk for 30 minutes. Isn't it a shame at our public meetings that they put limitations on the people's right to freedom of speech? It's all right to put it on for slander or blasphemous statements, but a time limit of 2 minutes, such as the Peekskill Board of Education gives you to speak, a time limit of 3 minutes, which the Peekskill City Council, Mayor Foster put into effect, and I'm hoping Mayor Catalina, who just came in, I think he is going to ease up and go back to at least the 5-minute rule, where a person could speak to 5 minutes. Because I ask you, can a lawyer build a case in 3 minutes? Can a person really express what they're for in 3 minutes? And isn't this what we elected people for, to listen to the people twice a month? We're only asking them at public meetings to listen to us twice a month. Why is it so important to wrap up the meeting early? If they know anything about the Constitution and the First Amendment says it guarantees people the right to freedom of speech. Why limit it at council meetings? Do you know in Congress, I don't know if they saw the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but he filibustered. And Mr. Ryan or one of the other people in Congress, because I think they didn't like the health care bill, or they wanted to bankrupt the country by holding us hostage with the budget, spoke for, I think it was 12 hours straight. But we don't have the same rights as our congressmen who represent us. And I didn't get in on the issue of guns tonight. Maybe I should. Is it right for the NRA to hold it over congressmen that if you don't vote the way we want you to vote because we're giving you money, we'll put people up against you to put people out? Don't they know that 20 children and 7 teachers were killed in Newtown, and they still lobby against background checks? We can't even have Congress pass a background check law. We can't have Congress pass an automatic weapons law. I served in Vietnam. I shot an M16. A semi-automatic weapon is a weapon of war that can kill massive amounts of people. What are they waiting for? Some terrorists or someone to go into a movie theater or a public place, 4 or 5 or 10 of them, and kill 500 or 1,000 people? They say they have Second Amendment rights, and once you give up one, you're going to give up all. That's not true. The Second Amendment was passed around 1780, but weapons have changed over the years. You can have an M16 with clips in it or other weapons that can shoot 50 or 100 shots. We have to put an end to the mass killings in America. We have to put legislation in on a national level the way Governor Cuomo did on a local level. And with that, this has been my first of many monthly shows about what's happening in the papers, and my opinion, and many of it is also the people's opinion. I thank you and good night. This has been George Ondek on the George Ondek Show. I hope, once again, this is a call to action for you to call your local towns up, your cities, your school boards, get the tax break that's due to your veterans, and have that flag put up on a flagpole on City Hall in Peekskill. Don't let us have to resort to have various veterans groups go to Peekskill and get it done. Thank you and good night.